joining us. We've missed doing this with him, so it's good to do it with him again. All right, business analyst Chika Mbonu. Chika, you're very welcome. Good morning to you.
Today?
I'm fine. We used to do all this banking and results on our wall, sir. Yes.
Interesting that we have to talk about First Bank.
Yes.
And it's a systemically very important bank. And
oldest bank in the country.
Yeah. Premier Bank in West Africa.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? Because of the fact that in up till 2016, First Bank, I'm just trying to set a tone before we look at the Q1 2022 results. Up to 2016, First Bank had had healthy operations. But a target examination by Central Bank of Nigeria in 2016 reviewed very dire situations in the finances of the company. Principally, their capital adequacy ratio, and the non-performing loans ratio were up there in the roof. The capital adequacy was very low, below the statutory minimum. And then the other thing that happened was that the NPA was very, very high, non-performing loans.
Yes.
At that time, it was about 25%, which means that every 100 naira loan they booked, they lost about 25 naira. You can imagine losing about 25% of your blood.
Exactly.
I'm not sure if you're alive.
Right.
And so, because of the fact that because of the historical significance of First Bank, First Bank, remember, came in as British Bank of West Africa, 1894.
Yep.
And it was 1979 actually that the name First Bank came into play. Size of the bank and the balance sheet deposit base, CBN had to come in to intervene and to find out what the problems were.
Yes.
Basically, the problems were identified as one, bad credit decisions.
Yes.
Two, significant portion of high level of non-performing loans.
Yes.
Most of them were insider credits. And then, of course, very poor corporate governance practices.
Yeah.
To turn around these fortunes of the bank, CBN introduced a restructuring plan in that 2016, which included changing the management.
Yes.
Introducing some forbearances and other key initiatives to turn the bank around. And so we're watching what's been happening since then to the bank.
Indeed.
And then what happened was that in 2021 financials, MPL has been coming down since then.
That's right.
From that 25, it's coming down. And then in 2021 financial year, they came in strong.
They did.
And then PBT came in at 131 billion, 78% growth on the 2020 financial year. And then, of course, also MPL came down from about 25% to about 7%.
Yeah.
So we just said, let's just whether this is for real.
Exactly. Let's just dive into it.
Let's just whether this is for real.
Yeah.
And that's how the Q1 result came in. And then we just said, this is real. Because on Q1, the PBT came in at more than 90% of the last year PBT.
Yeah.
And so we said, this transformation has come to stay.
Indeed. Let's put up the income statement. Let's have that up there. So
let's put that out.
Right, okay.
Even in going that journey, the customer base moved from about 10 million in 2016 to about 6 million as today.
It's a big jump.
Big jump. And then the other thing that happened also was First Bank became what I call the digital champion. About 22% of the transactions in NIBS, Nigerian NIBS, is done through First Bank. They became the second largest issuer of cards in Africa. And the other thing that happened was that they have more than about almost 90 million active users in the digital platform.
Yeah.
And so we say, okay, let's look at what happened in Q1.
Okay.
And look at the pattern and see that transformation is real. And so we're not surprised, therefore, that gross earnings, the top line, came in at 180.5 billion for just Q1, and more than about 32% growth in over the Q1 of last year, 2021. And then anchored on the back of growth in net interest income and the non-interest income. Net interest income, of course, comes from the financial intermediation efforts. Basically, the loan portfolios, you collect deposits from people, and then you give it as loans. So that's grew by about 38%. The non-interest income, these ones that me and you suffer. All those, they tell you to maintain your account.
Exactly.
And then the other things that have to do with digital banking, they came in there also. One again, about 23% growth on that. But interesting, again, that show that things are really turned around. Has to do with the impairment losses. That fell. The impairment losses between 2022 was about 8.8 billion compared to the 13.2 billion in 2020 and 2021. And that is about a 3% fall in that. Yeah. Not surprising, therefore, that they had this stupendous growth in their PBT, about 93%, from 18.9 billion in Q1 2021 to 6.5 billion in 2022. And again, who are those who are smiling? The shareholders of the bank are smiling.
Exactly.
From that 2016, that they had these challenges, to now they had about more than 400% appreciation in their share price. So everybody is smiling. Total assets of the bank.
Yeah, let's look at the balance sheet.
Let's look at the balance sheet. Total assets of the bank grew. If you anchor it on the financial year 2021, it grew by about 3.1%. If you look at what we call the FUGAs, the top 5 banks in the country, who are GT, Zenith, UBA, Access, and FS Bank. On total asset basis, First Bank is now the third, and interesting again on PBT, and they are the fourth, and they used to be the, how it come last from the, last among the listing, but moving up now, and so customer deposits, that tells you the confidence the customers have in putting their money into the bank grew by about 5% to about 6.2 trillion over the year. And then loans advances again grew by about 6%. So you find that the bank is very confident now to go out there and push out the loans because their risk management processes have been sanitized. And then there's more accountability and corporate governance and return in the bank. No surprising that if you look at the ratios, the post-tax return on equity is about 14.5. It talks about that if a shareholders give you 100 naira, how much you return to them? This is about 14.5 naira compared to about 8 naira
in the prior year.
It tells you how this is, gone up. And then post-tax return on asset. Return on asset talks about the assets of the bank. How are you sweating it? How are you
I like that term you always use.
How are you using it to raise money? The branches, all these motor vehicles, generators, and so on and so forth. And so it grew from about 0.8 the previous year to 1.4%. But one interesting one is the cost-to-income ratio. The cost-to-income ratio, as you'll see, fell from 69.6% to 67%. Cost-to-income ratio talks about that for every 100 naira that the bank earns, how much does he spend to, earn it? So he spent about 7 naira to do that. See, the champion in this area among the FUGAs, the top 5 banks, the GT still, about 43 naira. So First Bank still has a lot of room to grow in this area. So if you want to summarize, someone asked me, what's the First Bank do right? Basically, I can summarize in 3 things. I said, 1, the robust loan portfolio that enable them, go out there and do their financial intermediation, get their deposits in a very good rates, and lend out money to customers, and make sure that, like in the past, those monies come back, driving down their MPLs. And the other thing also is that the effective cost structure, they manage to manage their costs. Unlike in the bank, where there was lack of accountability, in the past, when there's lack of accountability, now there's more ownership in the management. And so expendings are value for money spending. And so for every 100 naira they earn, they spend less in anything now across all platforms. And that has reduced their cost of operation and made them more profitable. And of course, as I mentioned before, the one of the father, that digital.
Now, you've preempted my next question. So that's the future, right? That's where the banks are going.
The banks are going. For First Bank, for example, if I finish there, the fundamentals are now right. There's an opportunity now to, get the economies of scale arising from their size, and they are literally everywhere in Nigeria. And so digital banking happens to be the direction. And First agency bank in Nigeria, First Bank again is number 1.
Right.
They have the highest in Nigeria.
Network,
network. And so, as I keep saying before, I say it's like, it's akin to, First Bank is like a scenario where there's this music group in Nigeria that was number 1 before, and for some reasons, there were problems, disappeared, or they have problems, and other people came and took over the terrain, and now that group has woken up again. So
come back
here. So First Bank, this transformation is real, and we're counting on them by half year to see where they're headed.
And on the digital banking, I think I've asked you this before. Does that mean less physical branches in the future?
Of course. I mean, you know, if you go and ask the contractors who work for banks now, a lot of them are complaining now, because before it used to be, remember, and the real estate people also, remember, if you were a landlord on a street where you had some banks, you know, the banks were actually just going there and grabbing all the properties. So now, that is gone. There's limited footprint for banks now. A lot of banks are pushing their businesses towards the channels, and that's what you're seeing. You know, and there are variants. I don't think I can remember when I entered the bank physically. I'm sure the same thing with you. You can literally do everything you want to do with your phones now. And with other things that are coming into play in Nigeria, with the financial inclusion drive by the Central Bank of Nigeria, with the e-Naira coming into play, I believe that the direction, of course, is the e-banking. And for the whole system, is to just make it more reliable. The same historical problems are still there, that sometimes when you do your transactions, they don't go through, and it takes ages for the...
Share that story with us when you're traveling.
Exactly. When the reversals, are made, and I don't get your money on time.
Chika, what about, we've seen the growth here in First Bank and all the other banks. What about the competition with fintechs? How are you seeing that?
You know, what's happened was in response to the fintech entrance, into the financial system. What happened was that the banks, as we know it, the commercial banks as we know in Nigeria, started restructuring. And they started moving towards the holding company framework. Because strictly on commercial banking, I said the return is about 3, 4, 5% because of the challenges we have in the land. So what has happened is a lot of banks have seen that the income lines in other streams will come in to help them. And so a lot of them have introduced some verticals. So you have the commercial banking now in the holdco mode, commercial banking. They have the payment companies now. They have the consumer lending and then the insurance brokerage. Look at that. About commercial banking, payment company is fintech. Consumer lending is what fintech do. Insurance brokerage is what the fintech do. So they restructured their business to enable them to compete favorably with the fintech people, and they come with advantage because they have capital. Well, a lot of the fintechs are very thin on the ground, and they need something that can shake them. A lot of banks have what? They have capital. And they can actually go out there and even gobble up the fintechs into their system. Fantastic.
Chika, just a minute to go. Based on these results, I think, can you call this a post-COVID recovery for the banks?
Yeah, of course. Things have turned around for the banks. And, the Central Bank also helped in the issue of forbearance. We thought that the loan portfolios were going to get really worse, but somehow those are moderated. And the economy is returning now. The way the economy is returning a lot of times is when they look at the level in aviation. If aviation is improving, the number of people are traveling, the economy is recovering. That's happening now for everybody. And the economy is coming back in full stream.
All right, I mean, you are also an aviation analyst. You also come here to talk about the aviation sector and everything else, agri, fertilizer, everything. All right, business analyst Chika Mbona. Chika, thanks for taking us to the bank's results. Thank you so much.